Good morning. And on behalf of the entire Jobscan team, I want to extend a warm welcome to the 2022 No Fear Job Search Virtual Summit. This event was designed to give job seekers, that's you, practical and actionable guidance and advice that you can apply right away to take back control of your job search, get more interviews, and land a job faster. And really, this couldn't be coming at a better time. Over the past 6 months or so, we've heard of layoffs from major companies across the country and really around the world. And these are from well-established companies that we thought would be beyond the reach of any economic downturn. But the reality that we've had to accept is that it can happen to anyone. And that can be stressful. That has caused a lot of anxiety for many people. In fact, I want to share with you what one person wrote about their job search and the feelings that they were dealing with. Tell me if you've ever felt this way. So this person shared on a popular messaging site. They said, I've been looking for a job for nearly a year, got fired in October, but had a temp position back in May. Not sure what I'm doing wrong anymore. They've used Indeed, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, Dice, no results. They applied to government jobs, got no response. They signed up for their state's Department of Labor website, didn't get any results. They tried freelancing, that didn't work. They went to their college for work assistance, didn't get any help. They said, family looks at me like a joke and either refuses to help me find work or gets me terrible work since they don't really know me. Less than $4,000 in the bank, so stretching it thin, defaulted on student loans, so not getting loans anytime soon. And notice what they said at the end here. I'm tired and I just want someone to give me an answer. I know it's out there, so just give it to me already. Have you ever felt that way? Or have you ever asked any of those questions? What am I doing wrong? What am I supposed to do? What do I need to do? Well, now you know that you're not alone. Every job seeker deals with those frustrations. And it's because of messages like that one that we produce this event and we offer it to everyone for free. You're going to learn eye-opening and practical information that will make you feel empowered and confident. And you're going to want to attend every single session because every session has something unique to offer. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what to expect, of what sessions we're going to have this week. And if you haven't registered for any of these, there's still time. You can still register on the registration page. But let's take a look at what we can expect and what you can look forward to. So right after this session, we'll have 2 sessions on resume optimization. And really, who better to get resume tips from than an actual recruiter, right? So Ediana Rosen, a recruiter at Google, and Tejal Wagadia, a recruiter at Amazon, will host those 2 sessions individually. You're going to get insider info right from the source of how to write the perfect resume that will get a recruiter's attention. Tomorrow, we'll have 2 sessions on LinkedIn optimization by Jasmine Escalera and Miriam Spinner. Both of these amazing women are certified career coaches and LinkedIn experts. You might have seen Jasmine's TEDx talk on conquering workplace conformity or attended one of Miriam's workshops on LinkedIn optimization. Jasmine's session will show you how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to get attention from recruiters so that you don't even have to go looking for jobs. They'll just come to you. And then Miriam's session will focus on using LinkedIn as a platform and a tool to speed up your job search. On Wednesday, Ashley Watkins, a certified resume writer and job search coach, will show you how to write a cover letter that actually works for you. Everyone wants to know, we see this question all the time. Do I still need a cover letter in 2022? Well, Ashley's been a job search coach for 10 years, and she has 20 years of experience as a recruiter. So you're going to want to hear her answer to that question. And on Wednesday afternoon, Monica Fochman will show you how to make a career change in 5 steps. Monica is also a career coach and certified resume writer. She actually specializes in mid-career changes. So if you're in the middle of a career change or you need to make a career change, that session is going to help you a lot. She'll lay out a step-by-step process to follow. On Thursday, we'll start the day with a session that I'm personally really excited about. It's one that we've never done before at this event. We'll have a recruiter panel with Ediana and Tejal. They'll be joined by another recruiter, Kelly Rivnak, and they're going to answer questions from job seekers like you. So if you've ever wondered, how do I avoid getting ghosted? How do I get around ageism? What do recruiters look for in entry-level employees? Join that session to hear their answers. That session will be followed by a session with Jonathan Javier from Onsulting. He's the founder and CEO of Onsulting. Jonathan is very passionate about helping job seekers. I can tell you, if you're one of his 260,000 followers on LinkedIn, you'll see job search advice from Jonathan on a daily basis. And so his session on Thursday will cover all the bases of a job search strategy, putting all these tools together, your resume, your LinkedIn, and so on, and streamlining it all to get better results faster. Lastly, on Friday, we have another special session that's new this year. We're going to do a live resume optimization workshop. So we received submissions from event registrants, and we've chosen a few resumes to optimize live so that you'll be able to see best practices and tips using a real life resume. And then to finish the day, we wanted to give job seekers a chance to see all of Jobscan tools without having to sign up. So we understand if you're unemployed or you're unsure of your next paycheck, money might be tight right now. And we want to show you how you can get the most out of Jobscan. So we're going to pull back the curtain completely. You'll see every single tool, every feature, and everything that it does. You'll be able to see for yourself what you can use Jobscan for and how to get the most bang for your buck. So as you can see, there's a lot of information that you're going to learn this week. I encourage you to bring a notebook or tablet to every session, take notes, use the Q&A, participate in the Q&A portion. Every session will have a Q&A at the very end. And here's another reason to attend live. At the end of every session, you'll be given a secret code, and you can use that code to enter to win 6 months of Jobscan Premium for free. So register and attend every session live, write down the code, and then go to this URL that you see here, sweepwidget.com/c/Jobscan, to enter the code and get an entry for the giveaway. Every session has a different code, and this is only available for live attendees. And for everyone attending, live or on demand, if you're watching the recording of this, you can get 20% off Jobscan Premium just by signing up with the link that you see at the top right-hand corner of this screen. You'll see it on every session, so you don't have to memorize it. It's jobscan.co/promo/nofear2022. And that's 20% off forever for every month that you use Jobscan. So feel free to sign up at any time during this week and get your 20% off. Now, let's get this event started. Our keynote address will be given by our CEO here, our leader, James Hu. James built this company. He built the tool actually himself, and he has a lot of insights to share about the job market, how to deal with a layoff or being unemployed. He's also going to share 5 data-backed keys to getting more job interviews. So I encourage you to take notes. There's a lot of information in this presentation. So James, I will hand the session over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sydney. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking your time out on your busy Monday. I'm sure this is a new times for everybody, and love to kind of share my experience being through the last recession myself and having been laid off myself, and the whole experience of my career as well. So I will share my screen and have a slide for you. All right, does everybody see the slides? All right, should be good to go. So a little background about myself. This is today's agenda, and kind of I'll give an overview of where I see the market going as a broader trend, or the job market specifically, and the economy. And so we go macro first, and then we can dive into how to prepare for how to prevent layoffs from happening, or prevent yourself from being caught in the crossfire if possible. And then at the same time, prepare as well, just in case, and how to get more interviews from my experience, and then we'll provide some insights and data that we found as well. And then at the end, Q&A. So pretty casual. And let's get started. So a little background about me. I was born in Taiwan, and I came to the States when I was 12, straight to Seattle. Seattle is kind of my home, and it's it's been rough in the beginning to learn English is my second language, and having been learning about the American system and so on. So during high school, I was not a very good student per se. I was big on playing games, so it was uh, not very academic, as you might think. And so I was initially rejected by the University of Washington, which is the university in Seattle. And that was my first wake up call that I need to get my things together. And I just stopped playing games and started studying much more. And eventually I got in. But then after I got into University of Washington, I was rejected by the business major, which was one of the better major in at the school. And that was another adversity early on in my career per se. So regardless of that, I tried again, but took some classes and got back in. And a few of my friends got into Microsoft as an intern. So Microsoft was my dream company throughout college. And I applied every single year as an intern. I kept getting rejected. And so, but eventually I decided that if my academics was not my strong suit, I'm going to get as many internships as possible during school. So I started working on my resume way early in my academic year, starting in say sophomore year of college, and just applied to as many internships as I could, and got into several different work study programs and internships. And I worked for free in the beginning because I wanted the experience of having worked in the office compared to retail. And I eventually got into Microsoft, but I got laid off in 2010 from the last recession. So it took about 2 years from when the recession started to when I got laid off. And the round that I got laid off was about 5,000 people. So, I was very proud of myself in the beginning when I got into Microsoft, right? Because I was one of the few people that got into the company out of my major. And I was so proud that I bought a house at age 23. And then I was laid off immediately a year after. And so that was definitely a big shock. I continued to go to work without my mother knowing, and knowing that I got laid off. And I went to an outplacement center to work on my resume and prepare for interviews and so on. And then my mother later told me that she knew I was laid off and something was wrong, but I just kept going anyway. I did not stop, just leaving the house and getting my stuff together. And then I got back to Microsoft as a contractor for another year. So but this time I worked on something that I was much more interested, so that was not too bad. But except my salary was cut by a third. And then after that, I decided to go to China to start my first company. I'm not from there, and I've never started a business before this. And a friend of mine had an idea of starting this carpooling idea, a car sharing idea, because of the pollution and traffic problem. And we did that for about a year and a half. We raised some angel money, and we were working 7 days a week for about a whole entire year. Had a team of 15 at most, and it didn't work out. So that company failed, and we were back to ground zero. And I was, I wouldn't say broke, but I was not wealthy by any means, and was definitely had a lot of ramen days. So that did not work out. So I was back to job searching, right? And I was still in China at the time. I was trying to get back to the States. I was applying to Uber, Facebook, Google, Amazon, got rejected to all of them. because I now was more of a, a China expert or whatever. And that was not in my favor. So I worked for a couple other companies, and I worked for a company in Europe and as well. And during this time, again, this is when I discovered the importance of resume optimization, right? And having to compare my resume to a job description, like what isn't there a tool that does that, and tell me what keywords I'm matching. And so I started building Jobscan at that time. So without having these experiences, there would not be Jobscan today. So yeah, so that was my quick background. Definitely a lot of adversities, but I think that's what made Jobscan the way it is today. And there's a lot of learnings that I got from finding jobs and going through it over and over again. So I'll show that in my slides later. All right, so going back to a much higher level about the job market trends and what you need to know. So just, we'll take a different approach, kind of switch gears a little bit and kind of learn about the economy first. And I've been a econ nerd since about a year and a half ago when things were going through the roof. The stock market was going through the roof, Bitcoin, crypto, everything was hot. And I thought something's not normal. And I started looking and learning about the economy. And let me just dive in a little bit first. What is money? It's a very interesting question, something to think about. And how would you answer that question? So a lot of people think money is just cash, right? It's the money in your wallet, the money in your bank account. But a deeper way to think about it is money is debt, right? A lot of money is actually created out of debt. When you buy a house, you take out a mortgage, right? A mortgage is a loan, that's a debt. Credit card debt, it's also a debt. A car loan is a debt, right? A student loan is also debt. So a lot of the money that's out there that you perceive as money, it's actually loans, right? They are created out of thin air when the loan is created. And debt has a cost, right? And what is that cost for your loan, right? What's the cost for your mortgage? And that is the interest rate, right? So when the rates are low, it incentivizes spending, right? Your mortgage rates are 3%. Great, everybody wants to buy a house. Right now it's 7%, and nobody wants to buy a house, right? And same thing for buying a car, same thing for buying a lot of things, right? So the interest rate basically controls the economy in a way. And that's a very simple way to put it. I know people that are more sophisticated in econ kind of knows this. There's more things that's involved. But if you look at our interest rate, it is the lowest in 5,000 years, according to one study from Bank of England. But so this basically incentivizes a lot of spending, right? A lot of debt was created in the past few years, probably not just a few years, in past 13 years or even longer. And as a result, there's a lot of debt in the system. And now the interest rate is being raised, right? So a lot of that debt is actually being evaporated in a way, or has to be paid back. So what is going on right now is we have these boom and bust cycles, and it's always a cycle, right? And the last 13 years has been the longest bull run in history, and one of the best bull run in history. So a lot of things got really expensive, right? Including your house, including or people that own houses, right? Including the stock market and all that stuff. So, but as a result, there might be an even harder crash as a result. So, and you can also see that an unemployment rate has also been the lowest in history, all right, going back to 1950s. So low unemployment rate creates, of course, a lot of jobs, right? A lot of jobs. Everybody has salaries, and having salaries, people go out and spend more as well. So low unemployment rate actually increases spending and drives up inflation. So right now, the government, right, the Fed needs to bring up unemployment rate as strange as that sounds. And unemployment rate historically has been around 5%, 5.4%. So we are pretty low. We're still ways from that. And my take is, and according to a lot of historians or economists, that there will be 3.6 to 5 million jobs that will be lost in the next 24 months to bring down inflation. So it is not good news, right? And unfortunately, that's just how the economy functions. There's boom times, and there's down times, and we're entering into a downturn now, and this might be one of the worst downturns in our lifetime, according to some. Hopefully, it's not, right? And I don't want to scare anybody here, but at the same time, we should be prepared, right, in case that actually becomes the case. And as long as we're prepared, we should be okay, right? So how to prepare for potential cuts? Here's my take. So I would assess your risk first, right? Signs your job's probably safe. Did you exceed at your last performance review, right? And this is how a lot of companies are looking at headcount, is they look at performance first, right? The folks that are ranked at the bottom tend to be the first ones to go. And do you drive revenue for the company? Because right now, a lot of revenue forecasts are actually lower than expected. And that's also why a lot of the stock prices are dropping. And if you drive revenue for your company, that's usually slightly safer, but not always, right? That's only if you can actually, if your team or your division is actually making a progress on revenue goals. Does your skill level know about you or your contributions? I had a chat with a pretty senior head of engineering at a fintech company a couple of days ago, and I was asking him, so how are things? How's it going? And how are you guys assessing headcount? And he's saying that, I was basically asking him, like, who do you decide? How do you decide like who gets let go? And he's saying, basically, if I don't know the person's name, that's one sign. And also, he's asking his reports, his managers below him, to stack rank individuals one by one. And if you don't know what stack ranking means, it means, let's say you have 7 people on your team, the managers are being forced to list out 1 to 7 in an order of performance. So somebody has to be right at the bottom and someone has to be at the top. And then the cuts typically start at the bottom, right? Moving upwards. So that's what stack ranking means. It's pretty common practice among tech companies. I'm not sure about outside of tech, but this is how some of the executives are looking at headcount right now. So my advice, as well as some of my the contacts I've been talking to, is definitely want to stand out, right? Your manager, definitely your skip level manager, should know who you are and in a positive light if you can. And you want to work hard right now. There's no time to take it easy anymore, unfortunately. The good times are in the past, right? And this is the time to really work hard and share your efforts. And the question is, right, are you the hardest working person on your team? Right? If the answer is I'm not sure, then there's some work to do. And make an impact and back it up with data, right? When we say impact, we're talking about what your goals are, what your OKRs are for some companies, and can you actually back it up with data and prove that you've made these contributions yourself, right? Not just you don't just play a small role among your peers, but you actually make an impact, whether it's revenue that you drove or costs that you saved or projects that you delivered before the deadline hits, right? So on. So these has to be very clear. and have to prepare for those. And in larger organizations, building allies in your organization definitely helps a lot. Definitely there's some politics in some companies, and having folks that will back you up, or just in case, there's not a role in your current division anymore, you can go to somebody else in a different team, right? So building that relationship, or continue to do that, and even bring up or revisiting your former relationships will be very beneficial. So that's more on, that's more at the company level, right? In the daytime, if you're working, and of course, nighttime and your alone time, these are the things that you could do. So definitely number one is update your resume, include information that you've achieved recently, right? A lot of accomplishments. At least when I was working, I didn't really keep track of my accomplishments, and I ended up having to go back and ping my former colleagues on, hey, well, did you remember that project? Like, what was the result? Who, what was the problem and what was the impact, right? I should have written all of these things down while I was working. And some of them I just don't remember. And so definitely I would recommend keeping track of your accomplishments as you go, right? While you work. And even just keeping track or just jotting down the ones that you have done in the past year. And of course, update and optimize your LinkedIn profile. I'll talk about the importance of your LinkedIn profile in a bit, but your LinkedIn profile is the master resume in a way that's public. So there are keywords on there that you should focus on, and this is a kind of a no-brainer to do, right? And so we'll dive a little deeper into this one later. Get in touch with old friends, colleagues, contacts, anybody, right? This is the time you put on your sales hat. And even if you're an introvert, you don't like sales, you like get in touch with people, you gotta face yourself, you gotta push yourself to do this, because I'm sure some of you have seen studies show that a lot of the jobs or opportunities come from acquaintances, more so than your close contacts, right? Because your close contacts, your best friends, or friends that you hang out with most, or colleagues that the best, they tend to be within the same social network. So there's not an expansion of contacts. So the people that you kind of know are the ones that can make a difference as well. And what I did was when I got laid off, I went to every networking event I could find. I was meeting people left and right, getting their contacts. It was probably a little too much, but at the same time, I needed every help I could get, right? And I was asking people for informational interviews. I was, asking people for introductions. It's really a sales process, honestly. So I was saying networking is important, and again, networking has a kind of a negative connotation sometimes, but I wouldn't call it just like going to networking events, right? This could be anything from meeting people at a hiking group, right? Going to meetup events, just meeting people in general, friends, right? Anybody, right? And so to me, anybody could be a source of an opportunity, and definitely take advantage of any, not take advantage of the person, but if there's events that you see, things that interest you, if you have things that actually pique your interest, like that would be, you can show your passion in those things, would be much better. Lastly, on the personal side, cut your expenses. I would say immediately, even if you have a job right now and you don't have any concerns about your job security, just in case, cut your expenses. This is what I did. A little too late. After I got laid off, I started cutting my expenses. I had a budget. I had a budget. I gave myself a budget of every category, including discretionary spending and my fixed spending, right? So I had budget for how much time, how much budget I have to eating out, how much budget I have for utility bills. I was cutting my trash can bills. I reduced my trash can size from a large can to the smallest can I could find. I was saving money on water. I even put plastic bottles, water bottles in my toilet tank so that it doesn't use as much water. Right, I went a little stream, and I didn't go out anymore. I would invite friends to my house, and we'll have tea, right? Because I didn't want to drive, because drive costs gas money also. So there's still ways, right? You don't want to be secluded by yourself either, but there's ways to cut expenses if you really think hard at it. All right, how to get more interviews. So this is, the things that we're talking about are kind of preventative, right? This is, once you're active at looking at job search, how to get interviews faster. So, of course, optimize your resume and cover letter. This is also just kind of a must do these days, because we hire people and work very closely with our recruiter. When we look at resumes that are very generic, right? It doesn't come across as the person tailored it at all, or does it come across as a fit, right? We just kind of move on. So you want to make sure that the resume comes across as a good fit, right? A good match for that job. And of course, the biggest secrets of doing that is it lies within the job description itself. So you have to read the job description and figure out what's most important. And you want to tailor your resume according to that. And we'll dive deeper into how to do that in a bit as well in the future sessions. So 36% recruiters say resume format as a factor. It's an increase from 2017. Resume format is becoming more and more important as a lot of recruiters or companies start using applicant tracking systems to help manage the application flow coming into their systems. And there's two stages, right? The way to think about it is you got to get past the initial phase, which is the machine, kind of the applicant tracking systems, and then the recruiter, right? So the machine and then the human eyes. But a lot of people say, okay, well, a lot of my recruiters look at every single resume, so the idea of getting past the boss, not actually, it's a bit different, and it's true, for some companies, and so, but at the same time, a lot of companies, a lot of recruiters, they conduct keyword searches, right? When they do a keyword search, very much like how you Google, if your resume does not contain the right keywords, you don't show up. So it's not necessarily that you are automatically rejected by some AI bot. It's that you don't get found from a search, right? That's more of the essence there. So some formatting do matter, and some don't to some applicant tracking systems, but we do provide resume formats that we've reviewed and screened, and to make sure they're good formats for some of these systems. 26% recruiters say cover letters are important, and this is this is also debatable, but to us, at least I can only speak from my experience, right? Cover letters today are basically the email, right? Back in the days, cover letters are written in a Word format. You attach it with your Word document, and that's like, you can still do that today. But to me, when a candidate writes me an email and introduces himself or herself, that to me is the cover letter, and that's much more personal. And I always forward that application to my recruiter when I see that. So it does show effort. Number two, optimize your LinkedIn profile. A lot of recruiters use LinkedIn. That's basically the default they use to find talent now, along with other tools. And most recruiters are on LinkedIn. It's that when they don't get responses from candidates, they try other tools as well, right? Other platforms. But LinkedIn is basically the default. So you have to make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and optimized, because again, recruiters conduct searches, and when you don't have the right keywords or the right information on your profile, you don't show up during their search. And 58% of recruiters review LinkedIn. Yeah, so that's pretty much the same thing. And we do have a tool that helps with this, and we're making an update in the next few months, so keep an eye out for that. Focus on quality and quantity. So it matters how many interviews or how many jobs that you apply, of course. And from some of the stats that we've seen, 30% of job seekers who got 8 or more interviews apply for 81 or more jobs. So the chances is pretty low to get that call back. And so don't feel discouraged when you don't hear back or you get rejected. It's totally normal. I got rejected so many times that I just didn't, I would learn from it, of course, if I could, but just gotta keep going. Right. And sometimes I will even go to interviews just to practice my interviewing skills. And so this is something to remember. And also we want to emphasize that just because you get rejected, it's not personal, right? Don't take it personal. A lot of times it's just not yet, right? You don't have the experience yet. It's always about the experience, not about you per se. So I talk to some candidates, I see them have potential, but they just don't have the right experience level yet. And I tell them, come back, let's check in again a year later. So, same things. That was my mindset when I applied to Microsoft too. I thought just because I get rejected now doesn't mean I'll get rejected later. So I'll just keep applying. And it worked out eventually. So 38% of job seekers got 0 interviews have only apply for 1 of 10 jobs. So number of jobs that you apply matters a lot. I was applying to 10 jobs a week. And each one I was tailoring my resume. I was doing research about each company. I even did a project for eBay. I actually coded a simple software for eBay when I applied to a job there. I did a presentation without being asked to do a presentation when I applied to Uber. So you got to put in the effort. This is like a full-time job to find a job. 31% of job seekers who receive a job interview apply to, yeah. So again, numbers do matter, and quality matters as well. And yeah, use multiple job search methods. And again, this is putting on your sales hat. You gotta, for those that have not been in sales, or for those that have been in sales, you kind of know you have to try different methods and there's different channels, right? And for those that have not been in sales, in sales you have, or kind of like marketing also. In marketing, you have different channels, right? You have, paid social, SEM, SEO, offline marketing. You have different types of marketing. Same thing, you are marketing yourself. You should try various methods, applying to jobs online, talking to friends and asking for referrals, social media, making contacts on LinkedIn, even Facebook, employer career sites, of course, and connections and career fairs. So it's really getting yourself out there and getting your name known. And I would advise to not come across as, oh, I really need a job, I'm desperate, and you want to come across as if you're asking about what problems they have, right? If you can get in touch with a person or a recruiter online, even try to figure out the problems they have and say, hey, I have an idea for this. Let's see if I can contribute. Let's see if we can get a match. Can we have a conversation, right? That's a much better approach. So for example, when I was searching, I would find a job, let's say on Amazon. I would find actually 3 postings because, big companies like that, you just want to apply. You want to apply to as many as you can to see which one hits, right? But you can't do that. So what I did was I would find 3 jobs and I would search for the recruiter that might be working on these 3 requisitions or these 3 positions. And I would message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, my name's James. I have this background, and I think I can add a lot of value for one of these 3 positions. And which one do you think I would be a better match for? And I would love to have a conversation. And a lot of times the recruiter would refer me to the right recruiter that works on that requisition. So that's kind of a small technique to get in touch with the person on LinkedIn. And while also mentioning multiple jobs without sacrificing each opportunity, I guess. So the last one, of course, use as many tools as you can find. 20% job seekers said the most frustrating part of job search is writing, updating job materials. All right, it takes a long time. We get it. It takes a long time to tailor. It took me a long time to tailor my resume myself. And, Jobscan, we do provide a lot of tips and changes you can make to your resume. And it does save you a lot of time, right? If you do it yourself, this is a little extreme, but if you spend 8 hours a day, it could take you months to apply for enough jobs to get a call back. So you do want to find ways to make that process more efficient. Of course, where there's tools out there, feel free to compare the places, but our goal is to help you save time and increase your chance of getting interviews as soon as you can, right? And so companies use AI tools. We think that job seekers should too, right? You should have an advantage as well compared to your competition out there. All right, so yeah, going back to the earlier part about the economy, I know it sounds a little doom and gloom, but at the same time, there's an upside, which is, right now there's still 0.5 people for every job opening. So we are still in historic low unemployment rate. And a lot of companies are still hiring like crazy. So, my recruiter just, told us this: 75% of candidates started a new job in 2022. So a lot of companies are still hiring, and you just have to, but the window is getting shorter and shorter, right? So if you want to switch, right now it's time to switch. Otherwise, I think it's not gonna be as rosy as the next couple months will be later down the line. So with that said, I think that would be it. Love to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Very insightful. We do have a lot of questions, so I'll start right off and see if we can get to as many as possible. So one just really quick question. Somebody wanted to know what skip level meant. You talked about, does your skip level know who you are? Could you clarify who that is?
Yeah, so in large organizations, skip level is basically your manager's manager, right? So your director, your VP, right? It's the manager's manager. Because a lot of times, a lot of the decisions are, of course, coming from the top, right? And the C level, right? The CEO, the CFO, look at the books, look at the financials, right? They kind of decide on how much room they have in terms of how much profitability they need to have, and then it kind of trickles down from manager to manager. So it's important that the higher up they know about you, the better.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so here's a question. This person said, I'm considering pursuing a master's degree in the fall of 2023. Do you think that this is the right time in terms of the job market? So waiting for getting a major degree like that, or just starting to take action now? What do you think?
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, right now, especially the economy is not doing that well, it's probably a good time to be in academics for a couple of years and kind of shield yourself from what's going on outside. But I think the stars never align in these big decisions. So if you feel like it's the right time for you, I would just go for it.
Okay. Next question. How much do job market trends change per year or year to year? And how much does it stay consistent?
I think job market trends, like unemployment rate, it goes kind of in tandem with even the stock market, honestly, and the overall economy. So it doesn't change that drastically. Of course, during COVID, that was a black swan event. That's something that nobody could have predicted. So things like that definitely, had a big spike in unemployment rate. But typically, it goes along with economic cycles, right? When the government decides, okay, we need to expand the economy, right? You'll see unemployment drop over time, right? When they say, okay, it's time to tighten up the economy, then unemployment rate rises. So it's somewhat predictable. It doesn't really fluctuate as much as, say, Bitcoin, for example, right? But you can kind of see it over time. It doesn't change that drastically, but you'll see it trending upwards from here.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. This person asks, so do you remember, and we might be able to pull the slides back up. Do you remember what number you said for the unemployment increase over the next 24 months and what the unemployment rate will be?
So I'm just looking at a kind of a average for the past 50 years. So you can just Google this online too. The average unemployment rate, has been around like 5%, 5.4%, around there. And so we're below that right now, right? We're at 3.5, which is historic lows. And so for it to come back up, it needs to at least come back up to the average, right? Which is what I'm benchmarking at, around back to about 5.4%, around there. And it might go up even more, right? If things really go south, like unemployment rate is going to shoot, it's going to be higher. 2008, 2010, I think it got to like 7%, 8%, maybe even 10%. I forget the exact number, but it's only gonna go up from here.
Yeah, I think you said it was like economists expect a couple million jobs to be lost over the next couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, about 3.6 to 5. But I'm not an economist, just to put that out there. But I've been a nerd about it. It's a lot of things to read about that you can check out online too.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to the job search and your insight as a CEO or as hiring people, this person wanted to know, should I omit experience because I'm rejected for being overqualified, which is a very strange predicament. But for you in hiring, what would you do? Like, what do you think? Should they omit that experience because people think they're overqualified?
Well, I guess it depends on how many people had that feedback, right? If it's one company out of 10, I wouldn't care, right? If it's 2 feedback out of 3 or 3 out of 5, then it might have an impact. Depends. I mean, I would just look closer at the job level that the job requires, right? If the job is requiring someone that's just a BA degree of a mid-level position, but you have a PhD, it could be overqualified, right? I think the worry for some of these companies is the salary, right? Like, are we overpaying?
That's what I was thinking.
Is this person expecting a higher salary just because they have an MBA, right? And how would that change the person's attitude from a work performance aspect? So it depends. I would say I would, and I guess a way to look at it is you can kind of check out. One way to do this is just check out the LinkedIn profiles of similar positions in that company and what are their backgrounds, right? They can kind of give you an idea of who they tend to hire. But if things are concerned, you can try it, test it, remove some qualifications and see if that gets you a more callbacks.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, that it's probably more about the salary. So like if you're flexible on the salary, be mentioning that, or if you're not flexible on the salary, then that's just it. Then maybe the jobs you're applying for, you should try to step it up a notch. Like you might be able to qualify for a job that's better, that would have a better salary that company is comfortable with. So speaking of which, we talked about being laid off and why a person might be laid off. So how would you handle talking about being laid off in an interview without making it seem like you underperformed? Because you talked about how performance might be one of those factors. So say a person had been laid off because of that, how would they discuss that in their next interview of how they did get laid off?
Well, I mean, it's also true that sometimes not due to performance too, right? Because sometimes just the division or sometimes the team is not a priority, is not a core, right? When you look at a lot of the reports now, a lot of companies are saying we're focusing back on the core, we're focusing back on our core product, right? So the periphery projects or peripheral teams are not their focus anymore. So sometimes you could, that's one way you could put it, right? This is, our team was not a priority to the company anymore, or the priorities shifted, right? And so unfortunately, my team was one of them. And so, it happens, right? This is not something to be embarrassed about. Like this, a lot of this happens across the board, and sometimes we just happen to be in the wrong team. That's not something that we could choose sometimes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right, so here's a question about the job market hiring trends. Does the fact that it is nearing the end of the year make it harder to get a job? What would you say based on your hiring experience and those trends? Towards the end of the year, are companies less likely to hire?
They tend to be, honestly. I mean, when we get closer to holiday season, just the entire job search market slows down, even from a job seeker perspective, historically, right? So therefore, companies also react in that fashion where, okay, we get less job seekers, less candidates, so we're not going to hire as much also during the holiday season. So it's a good time to prepare, nevertheless, right? Because January tend to be the biggest month of the year in terms of hiring. So you tend to get more job search activities. You tend to get more job openings in January. So I would just kind of prepare for the new year if you're concerned. But honestly, it's work hard, just keep going and apply. It's never know, right? There's no, if you're not, if you've got no other major priorities outside of work, you might as well just put in more effort applying to
Yeah,
jobs.
true. So you kind of touched on this. What's the best time to apply for a job when our employer is actively hiring? You mentioned January. Would you say that's usually the peak season?
Typically, but right now we're not in a normal time. So we're not in normal time. So I wouldn't try to optimize that, right? I mean, January tend to be, but like I would just still keep pushing.
Okay. All right. So a lot of people wonder this. We're actually going to talk about this question too in our recruiter panel, but so the opposite of having too much experience is that they don't have enough experience. How can they get working experience if they keep getting rejected for that reason? What would you say based on just your experience in getting to where you are, or as a hiring manager?
Yeah, I had the same problem. I don't have a computer science background. I didn't know how to code that well. And I really wanted a product manager job at a tech company, at Microsoft or at Google or whatever. But a lot of the product manager positions requires a computer science degree, which I didn't have. So I was always my struggle and kind of the chip on my shoulder. So if I can't get that experience from a company, I'm just going to get it myself. So I started coding, right? I started building things on my own, and I built Jobscan also for that reason. I built Jobscan because I wanted to show companies that I could code so that I can get that product manager job. So you could get that experience outside of work environments. No one says you have to get experience at some big company, right? You could start a project yourself. You could start a project with some friends. You could, get that experience at a nonprofit, volunteer your time, right? There's plenty of ways to get that experience. That's one way, that's actually my method when I did it. And I was applying to analyst jobs too, and I had no analyst experience. So I was downloading public data sets and just playing around with the data sets and see what I could come up with. So yeah, it's honestly a little tough, but it takes time, right? You gotta sometimes take a step back, 2 steps back, 1 step forward. Sorry, 1 step back, 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
Right, take a step back, get that experience somewhere
Yeah,
first.
I would say the same thing for myself. Being a content creator, I had a job where I wasn't getting the experience or the opportunities that I wanted to get. So I I started just side projects as a hobby. You know, I stayed balanced with my life, but started those side projects, and that kind of gave me an opportunity. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. I'll try to get to as many as possible. One person, they actually, a lot of people enjoyed hearing about your career story. This person wanted to know what else helped you to cope with the hardship of rejection.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's really belief, right? I just believe that I could get that job. I always kind of believe that I deserve to work at Google, the likes of Google and Facebook and the likes of, big companies, and I deserve to get the best job I could get. And part of starting a company is also I deserve to see a successful company and run one that I enjoy doing. So it's really believing yourself that that it's told, if other people can do it, why can't you? Right. And if I get rejected, there's a popular saying in sales, right? Just because a no is a not yet, right? Like, don't take no as a dead end. It's not yet. Once you get experience, there's no reason why they would say no, right? Like, you match everything on the job description, they would interview you. So I just think I just keep going, basically. So gotta take the emotions out of it and not take things personally. It's not personal.
That makes sense. Okay. I like that too. I like the no, it just means not yet. Yeah. It just wasn't the right fit. So this person asked how these methods, so we talked about those 5 keys to getting interviews. How do those apply to an executive job search? What are the best tips to land an executive job? So like much higher barrier to entry. What would you say based on your experience that a person might need to add to the job search mix to get an executive job?
Yeah, I think the senior you go, the more referral based or connection based it becomes. So yeah, it's really getting back to getting in touch with former colleagues, getting in touch with other folks in that space, getting in touch with decision makers, and rebuilding those relationships again. And that seems to be, it's really a kind of a word of mouth at the higher at the very top, right? So depends on what level of the senior executive you are, that becomes more and more important. But if that is a limited option, I mean, I think it's again applying online. But honestly, like, I've gotten emails from folks that just email me directly, or on LinkedIn directly, and tell them about themselves. And though, even though that sounds like, oh, everybody's doing that, how's that special? But honestly, nobody does it. Very, very rarely do I get an email from an applicant that actually kind of introduce themselves and talks about their ideas and how to make the company better, right? Like, if you can see problems the company is having, any problem, right? Like, okay, revenue is dropping, whatever issues they're having. A lot of these are public. You can see in the news that certain issues are happening to this company, and you kind of just shoot out an email with your ideas and even some things you've done to back up those ideas and some research you've done. You automatically stand out. Like, nobody does these projects. Nobody put in the effort before they apply, right? Nobody put in the effort before the interview. But if you're the one of the few that do put in the effort before even an interview, like, you will likely get the interview. So
Awesome. Okay. Well, there were so many more questions. I'm so sorry, everyone, that we couldn't get to all of them. We'll have other sessions. Maybe we'll get to some of those questions. We'll also be on social, so you can ask those questions too. James, thank you so much for this session. It was very insightful. We have another one right after this that everyone can jump onto about resume optimization. So we'll see y'all over there. Thank you again, James.
all right, thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.